your first 2 Las Vegas Raiders picked in the NFL draft in the first round. Henry Ruggs at wide receiver, bringing that speed, bringing the swag and the robe. I like the robe look. Damon Arnette, bringing the boom at cornerback. So please, Vegas, whether you're a Knights fan, whether you're a Raiders fan, you should be both. But no matter what you are, join me in welcoming the first 2 first-round picks.
That's what I'm talking about. Revo was pumped, and I've seen VGK fans that never thought they'd root for the Silver and Black excited about our city's team. Pretty cool, but not nearly as cool as Las Vegas getting another bite at the apple and getting the 2022 NFL Draft. A tip of the cap to the commissioner, Roger Goodell, for making that announcement tonight. And as far as tonight's 2020 virtual basement draft, the Raiders snatched up Henry Ruggs III with the 12th pick. All Ruggs did was show an athletic freak ability at the combine, especially his 40 time going 4.27 seconds. Ruggs III, who was draped in a robe on his couch, as Reeves said, for the draft, is excited to be headed to a city he's actually never been to.
It means a lot, just that they go in and use their pick on me, for the first wide receiver and, their first draft pick ever in Las Vegas. So that's big with me, and I'm excited. I'm ready to go, and I can't wait until I get there and get able to get to work.
And the Las Vegas Raiders' second pick is a cornerback out of The Ohio State University. Damon Arnette scooped up 19th. Now here's the stat, folks. Arnette held opposing quarterbacks to their lowest passer rating when targeting single coverage. Mind you, the cornerback who was on the other side was the 3rd pick in this year's draft.
NBC has more on how this all played out. Faith, to you.
Hey, good morning, Crystal. It's now in the national spotlight, but many of us in Las Vegas know that Mayor Carolyn Goodman has been very vocal about opening up the city. And now it's making national headlines because she says people are not working, they're struggling, they want to get back to work. But in an interview with CNN's Anderson Cooper, it was the response that she made when he asked, okay, well, how do you want to do this safely? That did not sit well with a lot of folks. Take a look at the footage from this interview. This was a rather lengthy interview, about 24 minutes in length, with CNN's Anderson Cooper. Mayor Carolyn Goodman called for Governor Steve Sisolak to open the state, but when asked about the risk of creating a COVID-19 breeding ground or what steps she plans to take to safely open the city, some felt the mayor's answer disregarded the safety of those who would be impacted on the front lines. Take a listen.
Just let the business open. If it becomes a vector for viral infection and those people go back to their states and around the world, so be it.
It's a responsibility of each one of us as a human being and part of the civilized world to know when we're sick. We don't do bad things to people at all, ever.
I think that the mayor needs to listen to the scientists and the health care specialists and stop talking about my constituents as though they're guinea pigs in some grand experiment that she's trying to conduct.
Yeah, and Dana Titus, who you just heard from, actually responding to a portion of the interview where Mayor Carolyn Goodman was telling Anderson that she had suggested Las Vegas as a placebo, test it out, see what happens without social distancing. So a lot of people really against that idea there. Other councilmen, state leaders really saying, we need to be following the governor's directive to open up the city when it's safe to open. Governor Steve Sisolak saying that he's relying on the medical professionals as well as White House directives to determine that. And for those of you all who don't know, just to be clear, Mayor Carolyn Goodman, she does not have any jurisdiction on the Strip. That would be the county's jurisdiction, but there are plenty of casinos and other businesses that are in her jurisdiction. Faye Jesser reporting, CW, Las Vegas.
His funeral home says the room I'm standing in usually seats at least 75 people at one time. But now if you take a look around, you can see there are just 10 chairs spread apart. And this is just one way that funeral homes are having to get creative to help people grieve their loved ones.
And their ceremonial and ritual ways of handling death. have been taken from them during this time.
Philip Smith and Billy Valley are both managers at Davis Funeral Homes and Memorial Park here in Las Vegas. They've been in the business more than 20 years.
I would have never, ever have imagined that you would have to restrict the size of a funeral service.
They say not only is COVID-19 taking people's loved ones, it's also taking away their grieving process.
Due to the hospital restrictions and nursing home restrictions, a lot of people can't go and say goodbye.
Social distancing guidelines have made an already difficult time even harder, especially for those whose religions require certain burial ceremonies.
A Muslim family, they wanted to have a ceremonial washing and things like that, and the person had died of COVID-19, and unfortunately, it would have put too much risk for our employees and the people who came to do it, and so we did have to say no.
Funeral homes have had to get creative. At Davis Funeral Homes, they're offering online streaming. Some funeral homes are having people call in, writing their names on balloons, and then filling an otherwise empty chapel with those balloons before releasing them. They're incorporating bubbles and roses sent from loved ones.
We're just trying to do something to let them know that they're not alone.
But there are families who aren't willing to accept a socially distant send-off for their loved one.
We do have refrigerated holding to where we can keep the body preserved as much as possible. And then that way we're able to have a service at a later date.
In New York, where the death toll has surpassed 10,000, the city is temporarily freezing the bodies of some COVID-19 victims to help reduce the stress on funeral homes and morgues. Davis Funeral Home says while they have seen an uptick since the pandemic started, it pales in comparison.
I couldn't even imagine what they're going through.
Protecting your mental health is a top concern in these very difficult times, and News 3 wants to get answers to your questions about dealing with stress and anxiety. Joining us now, Executive Vice President and Clinical Director for Heads Up Nevada, Dr. Patrick Scott. Welcome back. I know that this is a tough time for everyone, but we want to start with those who may have a previous addiction or perhaps they have some type of mental health diagnosis. How could they better cope?
You know, all of us work with a lot of people, and myself included, and when times get tough, we tend to throw out our self-care mechanisms, and we can't go to the gym, and so exercising is more difficult, taking our supplements, eating well. And, you know, for those who have a previous diagnosis or a current diagnosis, a mental health diagnosis, depression, anxiety, or an addiction, it becomes even more important to be vigilant about self-care. These are trying times, and for the best of us, you know, for people that are just walking around or not walking around, as it may be, we struggle. For those folks that have some sort of an issue with mental illness or addiction, now more than ever, it's time to be vigilant about taking your medication, staying in counseling. There is a myth out there that because of the quarantine that places aren't open, and I know some doctors' offices are not open, but in terms of mental health and addictions, we're open for business. Heads Up is open. We are seeing as many people as we always have, and telehealth. You can get a prescription online. You can go online with your doctor, whether it's a physical doctor, medical doctor, or a mental health practitioner. So the AA Central Office in Las Vegas has telehealth online AA meetings. And so really it's a time to be especially mindful of your self-care.